part 3 of waiting list program. So we created a program that simulates a waiting list for a service such as a restaurant, a doctor's office. It can even be a gas station. I've seen many times similar systems. And the program will use a queue to manage the order of people in the waiting list and a set to ensure that no person is added to the waiting list more than once. And so we went through our tasks to create a waiting list manager class to implement the and implement the following methods. We implemented the add person, the void add person, with a parameter string name that adds a person to the waiting list. If the person is already in the list, it prints a message indicating that the person is already in the waiting list. And as I read this out, let me open the code. So that's let me see. Okay, and where is this? So here we have our add person method. Here we have our add person method. So yeah, we inside our waitlist manager class, we manage the waitlist using a queue and set, right? And then we have our string serve person. We have our string, where is our string serve person method right over here, which removes and returns the name of the person at the front of the waiting list. And if the person or if the waiting list is empty, it then returns a message indicating that the waiting list is empty, right? So it returns the waiting list if it's empty, otherwise, it removes the name of the person. And then we have as well, we worked on the boolean. The boolean is person in list with a parameter which takes in a parameter string name. We have that over here that just checks if a person is already in the waiting list. We have as well an integer waiting list size method which returns the number of people in the waiting list. And then we have as well a void display waiting list, which essentially it displays the names of people in the waiting list in the order they will be served. And then we worked on an interface, right? So we completed as well the requirements. We used a linked list for the queue implementation, and we used a hash set for the set implementation interface here. And we ensured no duplicate names are added to the waiting list. Provided a simple text-based user interface to interact with the waiting list manager. So I kind of just on part 1 and 2, I worked on a. So I did a how do I say this? So I did a separate waiting list interface method, and I then called it in a main method. But then I just decided to create a class waiting list interface and I call the main method inside it. And this is our code that interacts with our waiting list manager class. Okay, so let's go ahead and show our program's functionality. I was already working on it. Hold on, let me clear this again. All right, let's try that one more time. Let me get this over here. Let me shorten a little bit here. Okay. So waiting list manager, add a person. Let's go ahead and add a person. Let's go add king to it. Okay, so king added to the waiting list. Let's add one more person. Let's add John. Let's add John. And let's add one more person. Let's add, let's say here, let's add Jenny. Let's add one more person here. Let me add king codes. And so I'll add method works properly. So king codes added to the waiting list, Jenny added to the waiting list, John added to the waiting list, and king added to the waiting list. Now let's serve a person. Who should we serve? Let's serve. Actually, since it's a queue, it's a first in, first out. So king was first in the waiting list, so king will be the first to be served. And we can confirm that by running option 2. And so king has been served, as we can confirm over here. King has been served. So the next in line now will be John. So now we want to check if person is in the list. Let's go ahead and check that. Option number 3. Let's check that option number 3. Let me hold on here. The program here. So program is growing here. So option number 3. Option number 3. Did I set? Okay, so option number 3. Let's see if king is in the list. So king is not in the waiting list. He confirms that, so the program can confirm that king is not in the waiting list. Let's try again to see if there is a Jenny, right? There's a Jenny that wants to confirm if they are on the waiting list, and Jenny is in the waiting list. So let's go with option number 4 to display the waiting list itself. And so we have here John, Jenny, and king codes, right? We have king codes here. And so now let's exit the program. Perfect. Exiting. Okay, let's clear this. Let's so our program is functioning as expected or properly, and we can go ahead and just see some basic tests. A quick test here. Let me try and I don't know. Let's see. Let me add space. Yeah, space king space, right? And so invalid input, please. And oh, sorry. Let me add a person actually. All right, so we chose option number 1 to add a person. Let me add space king space. So it trimmed the spaces, right? And it added king. And we can confirm that if I add a person again, and this time I don't use any space and I'll just write king, and then it knows that king already in the waiting list is already. Let me fix this. Let me fix this here. King is already. King is already. King added to the way. King was added to the waiting list. Let me do a was here. Let me close here the where's the program? Alright, let me close this. Let me compile that. Okay, and let's run that one more time. Alright, so let's add a person and let me add space here. Let me add all the space here. Let me king codes here. Okay, so king codes. So we added all this space here. I don't know, maybe like five, I guess five, six character spaces here, and it trimmed only to one, was added to the waiting list, right? King codes. So let's add one person. Let's add space king space, right? And it trimmed as well the space, and it so our program is working as it's working properly. Let's add now again king codes, but we added the first time with spaces, and now let's add king codes without any space. Without any space. And then it knows king codes is already in the waiting list. Okay. And so we can run here to see who is okay, because king codes is in the waiting list, and let me go ahead and serve, right, the first person on the queue, right? And so king codes has been served, right? And we can exit. Perfect. So our program's functionality is so far so good, solid. Then we have as well some test cases to present. So we worked on the test add person function. We worked on the serve person. We worked on the waiting list size. We tested to serve from empty lists. We're testing duplicates and testing empty names here. All right, let me go ahead and test all. And we successfully passed all our test cases. Okay, so let's go ahead and submit the link. Let's go ahead and submit. Let's push this to our GitHub repository. Let's push this to our GitHub repository. Let me have this like this. And purpose of this to understand. To faces. Just something like this. Hold on. Let me do set over here. Okay. A system. Okay. Today's the March 17. And run waiting list manager class, and say use say uh let's say this is over here. Let me say use okay. Okay, so use waiting list interface class to interact with the waiting list. Let me do this like this. Okay, use waiting list interface class to interact with the waiting list manager. Alright. This seems good. We'll go ahead and save that. How do you even save this? You know what? Let me just copy this for safekeeping. And let's go ahead and let me open my folder real quick here. Where's my README? Yeah, okay, so that's saved. So that's saved. That's saved. That's saved. That's saved. Okay, everything looks good here. Everything looks good. Let me just go ahead and change the extension of that from a text file to a markdown file. Saves me time this way. And yeah. Okay, so let's go to our GitHub, right? Because we want to push our program to a new GitHub repository and ensure that the repository is public so that it can be accessed and reviewed. Okay. All right, let me go ahead and do that. Okay, repository. Let's go new repository. Waiting list manager. Okay, let me do something like this. Let me copy this. Let me call this app. And here, the description. Let's say a program that simulates a waiting list for a service. Alright, a program this, program that. Let me paste that. Go ahead and paste that. Okay, looks good. So we don't need to initialize this with a repository because we're gonna push everything. I like it. I like it this way, especially when it's a new repository. So yeah. Okay, so we're gonna copy our HTTPS. And then we're gonna open our terminal. And we are going to cd into our downloads, right? And we're gonna clone our repository to our path, our downloads path. We have it right over here, the app. Let me just go ahead and we're gonna carry our files into our repository here. Okay, our physical repository, and then we're gonna cd into our repositories, the waiting list app, and we're gonna is everything inside already? All right, we got everything. So since we made changes to our repository, we want to add, right, all our changes. We want to make sure, so we do a git add. The period means everything. If not, you could specifically select a file like this, right? Git add readme, but we want to add everything. So we're gonna do that, and then we're gonna what are we gonna do next? We're going to commit, right? Git add, and then we commit our changes. Let me go with the initial. Okay, that looks good. And so now we can push. Let's go with a git push dash u origin main. Okay, let's go and refresh our GitHub, and there we have it, our waiting list app in our repository.